right, good afternoon, class. This is going to be my founding concepts and American views of government presentation. My name is Logan Poole, so let's get into it. All right, the first thing that I wanted to cover was just how early Americans valued independence and mistrusted centralized authorities. And then in the week 11 lecture, I wanted to discuss how settlers resisted both government control and church power. This produced a cultural expectation for limited government and strong civic and charitable engagement. And the example that I wanted to give up was barn raising traditions emphasized voluntary, mutual, civic, and state intervention. This is also covered in our week 11 lecture. And then I also wanted to go ahead and discuss the government versus charity in early America. This was in Massachusetts, how it emphasized public welfare, mandating support for both early as 1962. And then we go ahead and this is going to be linked to interest groups and whatnot. So the interest groups form when people organize around a shared concern, mirroring early charitable associations. According to our textbook, interest groups channel citizens' preferences into political action. And then on top of everything else, charities often act as contemporary or adversarial partners to governments similar to advocacy groups. And then I wanted to bring up in the crash course video, interest groups. He spoke on how interest groups seek to influence both policy, not run candidacies. And then for the types, it's economic, public, interest, ideological, and single issue groups. And then I wanted to also go ahead and discuss the impacts on media and national direction. So from our textbook, it talks about how media shapes agenda setting, setting priming and framing. And then in the video, crash course number 44, the media influences what issues Americans think about. Sorry. And how they interpret them. And the example that I did want to go ahead and give was for coverage of social welfare debates affects public support for government programs. And then on top of everything else, modern and digital media amplifies these interests. Next thing that I did want to go ahead and discuss is both the advantages and disadvantages. So for the advantages, based off of the lecture that we had on Tuesdays, we talk about how the strong government involvement can ensure that there's access to almost all services universally. And a couple examples that I want to bring up was the New Deal and Great Society expanded social safety nets. On top of everything else, government funding often stabilizes services that nonprofits can't. And then from our textbook, it talks about how public provision reduces inequality and standardized support. And then for the disadvantages, it just talks about how there's excessive dependence on government, how governments may weaken voluntary cooperation. This is also touched on in the lecture. And then there are certain thinkers like Friedman, how he warned that welfare states discourage private charities. And then Taylor also argued that government responsibilities have a possibility of causing voluntarism to atrophy. Lastly, large bureaucracies have a significant chance of reducing innovation while also halting efficiency significantly. And then I just wanted to conclude with how the founding values still influence debate over government and charity, while interest groups and nonprofits carry forward traditions and civic engagement. Lastly, how the media is going to shape how Americans understand government and responsibilities. And we just need to have a complete understanding of these things if we really want to move forward as people.